except for I know. Oh, I did want to just take a quick second and let's see here, introduce Tyler Herwagen. Tyler, I think, do you know everybody on the call, Tyler? Hey. Yeah, so, hey, Charlie.
Hey, Mark, how we doing?
Good. You might be on mute there, Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler's muted. He's on now.
Okay.
There he is.
Yeah. So I just want to introduce everybody to Tyler real quick. We're missing a vice president's position, and between myself and Phil and probably a number of you, we've always been trying to convince Tyler to join us as a VP. And I don't know he's 100% there yet, but I wanted him to get on and just meet all of you, and so that you know who he is, and we're hopeful that he'll decide that he'd like to take a shot at the VP spot. So, but you can kind of see her. I don't think we can hear you yet, Tyler, but I think you can.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
There he is.
Can you hear me now? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Right. I did something.
Yeah, so you have pretty much the other full board here, except for Beth Andrew, who handles Tour de Blueberry and the special events, and Kitty Cole, who's really with Eileen's group, I think, in the Terry Benji Foundation, but she handles all of our education and training, correct? Did I get that right?
He's equally on both boards.
Yeah,
But
so.
yes.
But anyway, before we get started, there's a couple things I want to say thank you, and I'm sorry for the confusion over the date. I hopefully by the time this meeting's over, we'll have it etched down. But I got about, when I was asking when is the first meeting, I got about 3 or 4 different answers. One of them was it's the 3rd week of January, and it was the 4th week of January, and then I was pretty convinced that it was the 4th week of January. But there's 5 weeks in January, and I think the real answer, it's the last week in January. Is everybody on the same page with that? Or last week of the month, sorry. So that's where the confusion came in. And I put some dates down here, and hopefully we can make sure that we're all on the same page with them and that they fit everybody's schedule, and we can etch them in. And I also just want to say, thank you for the opportunity to fill this position. I'll do the best I can. I feel it some ways I've already let Eileen down a couple times with signing things and attending things. So,
you're awesome, Mark.
I still have a pesky full-time job that keeps me overly busy. So, and then I just wanted to, I don't want to dwell on this, but I did spend some time looking at our Constitution and bylaws, and I did it, to educate myself. But on section 3, it talked about the club's objectives, and I really connected with all those. They all made a lot of sense to me. And I don't know for the board when was the last time was you kind of looked through those. And I was asking myself, do I, in the time I've been with the board, do I actually do and promote these things? And I think the answer for the most part is yes, but I felt like couple places that I thought I might be able to do a little bit better is, on A, calls bring together individuals and organizations with a common interest in bicycling. And I'm not sure I know exactly what that means, but maybe over the year we could tease that out a little bit and ask ourselves, are we bringing together all the organizations and all the individuals with a common interest, and we're promoting them? And then in section C, it talked about some of the bicycling activities. I think we do a really good job with the regularly scheduled rides. I know we've struggled with the team competition piece, but I've had a number of people ask me about group touring rides. And I think if I gathered it right, there was a point in the club's history where there was quite a bit of touring. And I don't know that I've ever seen or done that since I've been involved. And then the last thing, and I know Eileen and a couple of you sent me some really helpful information. I've always wondered, what is the close working relationship with the Terry Benji Bicycling Foundation, and how does that work together? And it's probably too much to talk about on a call today, but I wouldn't mind at some point if we maybe set up another smaller call or something, just talk about it. Is for those that are experts in it, and I kind of gather would it be Eileen and Al, just talk about, are we doing the right things, and are we all on the same page together? So those are some kind of highlights, other than really want to give a shout out and a thanks to Phil. I've been blessed to work with him, and his patience with me and the hard work he's done on the club, and Phil, I think we're working on something a little more than a verbal thank you. So bear with us. We'll be working on something for you to really show you our appreciation. But I know for me, I'm grateful that you're still heavily involved in keeping me going in the right direction, because I'm learning a little bit by fire, so, as evidenced by the date of our first meeting. So with that, does anybody have anything else they want to say before we move along in the agenda? Yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've been on this board now for 20 years. At any rate, first of all, Mark, you're straight on. Every couple of years, whatever, the club needs to assess, where are we going? What did we say we're going to go? And so on like that. So yes, great idea. I would not try to do it in a board meeting. It's a little too, too compressed, time compressed. Maybe some sort of a thing, meet somewhere and do it and so on. But yeah, you got to do it. Make sure the club's going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to be honest. When I read it, I just, I feel like the club's doing cool stuff, and I totally aligned with everything that was on there. But yeah, but every so often, it's probably good to kick back and take a look and assess, are we going down the right path? So anybody else have anything before we get started? Okay, so then just the general club business I didn't put on here, and we probably ought to start with this, as I saw that the meeting minutes for the last meeting came out, and I scanned through them quickly, and I'm assuming, is it appropriate that the board, there's a motion for the board to approve the past meeting minutes? Is that normal, or?
I make a motion. Well, does anyone have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I didn't.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, great. And then I put on here dates for the future board meetings, and I'm not sure I got them all right. So I think, in fact, I can already see one that makes me scratch my head, but it's because it's a holiday.
Hey, Mark, can you project those? So
I don't know how to do it with Zoom.
and I think maybe Sandy. Well, let me just say that it is the last Monday of every month except May. In May, Memorial Day falls on the last Monday. So I sent out a reschedule on that to move it to the prior Monday.
So that would be the 22nd.
Yes.
Okay, so I have that on this list, and it looks like the July 31st is the last Monday, and I think
Right.
The only one I was scratching my head about a little bit, and it was the November one, because if I'm not mistaken, do we have a in-person meeting? Is it October, November, sometime like that?
No, we don't have a. We don't really have a board meeting in November. We just have the all member meeting.
Right,
Picnic.
that's the annual meeting.
Okay. And that's to be decided still. Gotta
Mhm.
pick
Right.
Okay. And is that, so I know, is that something that we would ask Gloria to do, or okay, as the entertainment, as our social director? Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I think I got them right. I think if everybody's happy, I'm good. I also just wanted to mention that if the club has a desire to have an in-person meeting, I have a conference room here in my office. I'm right at Racine or Randall Parkway, right across from the Flying Machine Brewery. We could go over there if you'd like, but probably ought to get our business done first, huh? And then, but if there's ever a desire to do that, and you want to meet in person, I have a big conference room. We have monitors on each end, so we can hook up and do Teams for those that don't want to, would prefer to be at home, that sort of thing. But I just would need feedback from you all if you'd like to do that sometime.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that as much as I thought this whole Zoom thing was a pain in the neck when it first started, for somebody who lives in Hampstead, it's a beautiful thing, because I don't lose an hour in addition to meeting time every time we meet. And looking at the schedule in my travel life, which I'm thankful is awesome, I would have to dial in more often than not personally. So
Yeah.
we talked about it in the Benji Foundation, and what we did find, and this is just our experience, we met twice in person, and each time a few people had to dial in. And hybrid to me is not the best of both worlds. Hybrid is the worst of both worlds. So we actually decided as the Benji Foundation to just stick with Zoom, because there was always half the board had to dial in anyway. So that was just our experience. But obviously, if everybody wants to meet in person, that'll work. You know, I'll just have to dial in more often than not.
Yeah, so I don't think I personally was looking for a decision. I just wanted to make sure the board knew that if we ever had a desire to meet in person, we got a spot, it'll work, we can get pizza, whatever. And just let me know. Just know it's available.
There's $300 in the planned budget for face-to-face. Okay, so last year we didn't spend it.
Okay.
So if you wanna do it and get some pizza 2 or 3 of the times, it's there.
Okay. All right. So this next topic, immediate past president as an officer, I know Al reached out to me, and when I was thinking that we didn't have a vice president yet, and then have struggled to take care of some of the asks of the president so far. I started thinking about it. Would it make sense for the immediate past president to be on the executive board so that they have the authority, if called upon, to execute documents or things of that nature? And again, part of my thinking was, as I was concerned, I mean, the reality is the executive board, and hopefully Tyler will come on, was 3 people. And so it's not really, didn't really have the full complement of officers. So that's why I put this on here as a question. I'm not an expert on board of directors, but I am on a couple, and I know all of them have the concept of the immediate past president or immediate past chair is on the board, which I think is fantastic. And they are part of the executive board. So there's actually 5 people as opposed to 4. So I just wanted to throw it out there and see if anybody in the club thought that is something we should consider, not consider. Obviously, if we can talk Tyler into taking the VP role, then we've got a full complement, but just curious what the group's thought is. Anybody has an opinion?
No,
I
I
mean,
do.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, if I can, and I think also because Eileen has been with this board for a number of years. I don't think in the number of events that, the club needs a signature on, some sort of advocacy sort of thing. And maybe that's my mind bent advocacy, then it will make any difference to whoever receives that, whether that person, the president or the immediate past president is a officer versus a board member. And perhaps, the other boards that you're involved with, Mark, may be involved with a lot more money than we have and a lot more commitments, to doing stuff. I mean, like, building bridges and stuff like that, than our club is. Our club's got a lot of money compared to where we were 20 years ago, but, we're still, not a huge enterprise.
Okay,
I agree with Al that, I mean, the past president is a board member for, and they're in charge of the nominations committee. Go for asking Tyler to be here. But I agree with Al, like, because you would have to change the bylaws if you made that position, part of the executive committee, which is fine. It's not the end of the world, but it's a bit of a pain. And I think in Phil's capacity as past president, he's done a great job stepping in as needed. And like Al said, if he signed a letter as immediate past president to support a grant application, nobody would say, oh, we can't accept this letter. So unless you want to change the bylaws to reflect that change, I think the current setup should work just fine.
okay.
Well, I hear other comments from people that have experiences on other boards.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I raised it is just, the fact that we had on the executive board, there was a vacancy. So if forever, for some reason, we had to vote on something or there was a decision that had to be made by the executive board, I was concerned that, it would be left to 3 individuals. So, I'm not suggesting we change anything. I just wanted to toss it out there and see what the group thought. And it sounds like for people that have a lot of experience with this board at Cape Fear, that it's not something, you're comfortable the way it's set up, and me too.
I think if something really big happened, you and Tony and Wayne would probably call a board meeting.
Yeah.
If there was something really big brewing that you didn't feel comfortable making a decision with 3 people,
Yeah.
And that's what we usually do, is to say, we need a full board decision on this.
Okay. And then I just, the last thing before we get on to the heavy part of the meeting is I think at some point we should talk about talking about how the CFC and Terry Benji Foundation is aligned. And part of that's just my education.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mylene, you sent me some, and Al both sent me some really good information on it. They kind of brought it all together. So I don't think my job is to question it, is just to say, are we doing what we said we do as a collective group?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we are. I think what's been helpful, as Al mentioned, he and I have been on the Cape Fear Cyclists board. I think I joined the board in 2008. And Tyler, just so you know, I survived being president twice. So I was immediate past president. I swear to God, it felt like 8 years. But it's a great board. And because of our experience on the board, and because of Al's experience from day one on the Benji Foundation board, I would say in the last 2 years in particular, as this board has gotten so much stronger with Ural's leadership, and as the Benji Foundation board has gotten stronger and really found its feet, I think we've done a really good job of finding our lanes. And the fact that the Benji Foundation board is now doing the advocacy and safety, when we used to have Cape Fear Cyclist board meetings, when Terry was alive, we did all of this stuff. We did the advocacy, we did the safety, we did it was a lot. And so now the Benji Foundation's over there and you're over here, the Fear Cyclists Foundation board is over there. I think it's working really well, to be honest. It's freed you all up to focus more on rides and ride safety, and it's freed us up to focus on, and I'm on both of us's, but I think it's working well.
Great. Any other general business anybody wants to raise before we move on to the meat and potatoes here?
Yeah, again, I think Eileen expressed it well. At times, the club, the board has moved over to one side of, hey, we're just a bicycle club and all we want to do is focus on rides and races. And other times, there's been a heavy emphasis on advocacy. So right now we have two organizations that are, linked together at the hip that can focus on the stuff they do best. And I think it's working real well. But again, I'm prejudiced because I'm part of that setup. So if anybody doesn't, has a different view, man, I'd like to hear it.
Hey, I was just looking at the bylaws. And the version I found says the board, section 1, board of directors, the board shall consist of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, the immediate past president, and the chairs or co-chairs of standing committees and specific organizational positions.
Mhm.
So there's an identified position for the past president.
Yeah, I think my question, I probably used the wrong term when I said executive boards. There's officers, there's 4 officers, and then there's the group of all the board members.
Right.
So I probably should have been asking, should we consider having the past chair as an officer? And I think we decided that we don't really need to do that.
Yeah, if you need, and the officers have specific duties, so you'd have to have at least some description of what the duty of the past president was as an officer.
That's to keep the new president in line, right, Phil? But now that I know there's more than one here, you should keep me in line, I'm guessing.
I have to get you down to the bank, sign that card.
What's that?
I have to get you down to the bank, sign that signature card.
Oh, okay.
You're not gonna keep your credit card?
No,
No.
I guess, I don't know.
Cut it up.
Okay.
never had a card.
That's right, I guess you didn't. It's Beth that has the card, has the other card.
Okay, well, I guess, should I coordinate that with you, Phil? Or who do I work with to take care of that piece of business?
I'll probably need to be there too.
Mhm.
So I
Okay,
think probably the 3 of us are gonna have to go there. I'm not sure whether Phil's gonna have to be there. It may just have to, we may be able to do it just the 2 of us, Mark.
okay, I'm gonna be, I hop on a plane tomorrow and don't get back.
I don't think it's particularly urgent.
Okay.
Right now, Phil has signature responsibility. I'm not going anywhere for a while. Also, Beth does.
Okay. All right. Well, when I get back, I'll reach out to you and we'll figure out a time we could take care of it. Unless anybody has any questions, we'll move on to Wayne with the secretary report.
I'm done.
Yeah, we did the minutes already, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Does anybody have any questions for Wayne? Okay, well, we'll move on to Tony and the treasurer's report. I just wanted to say, Tony, for somebody that hasn't looked at a lot of the budgets, I've seen a few. I thought you did a really nice job of preparing the talking points. It kind of helped me out a lot, hone in on on some of the things that are to be considered. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. This is my third year trying it. First year, I was trying to keep in line with what I was doing. Then I've tried to move it into more of a planning kind of document than it was. Let me spend the time. I made up some talking points. Let me spend some time talking about those. I'll bring out a few of the budget line items that might be important, but I don't think it should be necessary to go through every line item. Although if anybody has a question on any of them, certainly open for discussion. Okay, so just starting out, the method that was done this year, and I did it last year too, was to split the club expenses, what I call the normal or the riding expenses, from the Tour de Blueberry. There just is not a lot of commonality between the two. The Tour de Blueberry is much more actually a substantive job in terms of the treasurer and of course Beth in setting it up in terms of tracking all the costs and everything. And planning is very important for that. The club side, though, most of the expenses are repetitive. They repeat from year to year, and it's just a matter of escalation and checking a few of them out. So I have split them and then bring them back together at the bottom line. The same method that was done last year. And I'll get into it a little bit about each of those two budgets from kind of a high level standpoint. Again, talking about method, for anybody that doesn't know, we have a single set of bank accounts. We have a checking account and we have a money market account. They are both at First Bank, and all the funds that come in or go out flow through that account. And that includes the Tour de Blueberry. Everything that comes in on the Tour de Blueberry goes into that account and flows out of that account. Okay. The cycling expenses for the cycling half of the club, the normal expenses are based on 2022 actuals, and they included some rollovers. One thing that I did in that area, though, is I made it a little bit more generous than it needed to be, and intended really to promote growth and social interaction with the club. So there's a fairly substantial amount of money in there for marketing, for the social events in the year, and for other items. If you really look at it, there's really only a couple items that I really consider hard, really mandatory for the club. And that's the insurance and everything that deals with the web and, getting people maintaining the credit card functioning and all that kind of thing. Those are hard expenses, and they're pretty well structured. The others, they're a little bit softer. There's some discretion on those things. And from year to year, we've rolled them over too. So, but like there's money in there for honorariums that we may or may not spend, but it is budgeted, and it really, I think, is intended to be a fairly generous budget. And it's to promote the particular growth of the club and the social interaction of the people in the club. On the other side, you got the Tour de Blueberry, and it's a very kind of what I consider conservative budget. First of all, we don't know how many people are going to show up at the thing. Last year, we had a wonderful year, 616 people. The budget is based on 400, which is really kind of the number that I kind of see as kind of more or less a break even, that we get much below that, and we're really going to have to squeeze the costs in that area. So it's difficult to forecast the level of participation, but we certainly hope for a much higher participation. It is a interactive Excel program, and you can change the registration. You can change the price on the registration, and it will all flow, just run right through every one of the costs that are in there and show, and it'll run right to the bottom line on everything. So anyway, that's the number. That's a bit on the method. Just a quick look back in 2022, we had a very good year. We ended adding about $2,500 to our cash on hand, leaving the year at close to $30,000. Any questions at this point? Otherwise, I'm just going to push on.
A couple quick ones,
Okay.
I hope. Honorariums, what is that?
Honorarium is something that was brought up and was approved by the board. You may remember later last year, we added in as a budget revision, and that's a point that can be made. The budget can be revised through the year. The budget is really an authorization also to spend money. If you really read our bylaws, we're not supposed to spend over $100 unless it's approved by the board. But I take it that the board approves the budget, and therefore I'm authorized to pay the bills.
Yeah. So what,
Well,
I mean,
we had
what
a-
kind of
we-
expenses would you incur in there?
We had I was going to give a past history of an honorarium, if that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I
had-
mean,
we had
isn't it kind of just a recognition of things like the ride leaders or somebody that we feel, you know, let's take the special events coordinator, puts a lot of work into that.
It- What we've done in the past was we had a board member who was the webmaster, and he and his wife were both members, and she died. And she was a teacher at UNC Wilmington, and there was a scholarship being created in her name. And so the club voted to put, $500 towards the scholarship, because it was for a health and wellness scholarship. So we've used it mainly, not just as a thank you for somebody who did a great job, because that happens all the time. But my recollection is that we've used it when board members have passed away, and there was a recognition that was appropriate for the board to make a donation. And again, that was also pre-Benji Foundation, so all the donations ran through Cape Fear Cyclists back then. But I think having money available for an honorarium, because you just never know what might happen, is you don't have to spend it, but it's nice to know that it's there.
Yeah, well, the ones that you're pointing out there, Eileen, that from what I saw were donations. I don't know that there were line items in the budget, but.
I'm going back to 2010. I don't remember exactly.
Okay,
I know that that's what we called it back then. Jeff Eng was the board member and his wife, Kathy. Anyway, whatever.
Anyway. So anyway, there's $1,000 that is in the budget for whatever purposes that the club wants to do to recognize or an individual or individuals.
No, I think I agree with Eileen. It's good to have it there because a situation like that can come up. There's no need to spend it if that situation doesn't come up.
Yeah. So just at a high level too, it looks like our actual expenses last year was like 10,500, and we've budgeted up around 14.2. And the reason I'm asking this is because I saw the commentary about there's a club policy that we have a certain amount of cash on hand, and it's 2 to 2.5 times our annual expenses.
I think it actually says 2. I've been saying 2.5, but it's actually written into the position guidelines. Yes.
Okay. So, and it sounds like we comply with that.
Yeah, we do comply with it at the level that we have, and there's we're deviating a little bit from where we are, but I know there have been discussions prior to myself about that we didn't need so much in the budget or in cash on hand. Now I feel a little bit different than that. I feel it's very important for the club to be able to survive and grow over the long term. And secondly, I worry a little bit about the Tour de Blueberry, because the Tour de Blueberry, if it does not generate enough revenue, it comes right out of the club treasury.
Yeah, I picked up on that. I
Totally agree.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's, all right, I'll talk on the Trudy Blueberry a little bit. As we know, Beth is not in here, and there are some discussions going on in that area right now. So anyway, our cash on hand, we ended the year very well. We didn't spend as much as we budgeted, and we were able to get, we made a lot of money on the Trudy Blueberry with such a good turnout. So we were able to have very more generous donations, and we were able to get some retained earnings back into the club. Okay.
Just a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Go
is
ahead.
everybody able to see the budget and everything? Do they have it handy?
It's posted on the website.
Okay.
I have it here, and I can try to bring it up. I haven't had the best luck on the share screen, but we'll see if it happens. And I think it has to have permission to share it.
I saw it. I have a quick question for you, Tony.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me. You estimated the attendance at the Tour de Blueberry at 400 in the budget for
Right.
this year.
That is correct.
But last year we were over 600 participants. Why did you
That's correct.
estimate? Why did you estimate so low?
It's, as I mentioned, it was really a matter of being very conservative in the budget. I'd much rather way overrun it and have, if we have 500 or 600, and I think that should be the target. But it's 400 is kind of the break-even point. It's really a little bit lower than that, but 400 we don't make a lot of money, particularly with what's going on now, because the insurance has been increased substantially, and that's another area of discussion. You know, I don't think we dare take the chance of going without insurance, but we do have an indemnification agreement.
I agree, but I think it would be more accurate. Maybe we don't estimate 600, but I think 400, I mean, that seems awfully low. It just seems like it would make the budget more realistic, especially with looking at the potential of increased insurance costs by upping the number of participants.
At 400, we make $6,000.
Right, I did see.
Okay. At 600, you may make $15,000.
Well, maybe split the difference, 450, 500. It just seems like it would make the budget more realistic where the event is concerned, based on what happened last year. And so many people, it was so popular. I can't imagine we'd be back down to 400 in any, something short.
Right.
Yeah, something short of catastrophic.
And I mean, any other comments on that? If we have a rain day on the year or anything?
Well, Tony, I'm assuming that, as we start doing signups, which I think Beth is going to start in February for a couple of weeks, we'll start having some trajectory on where our participation will be. And I'm assuming if we go over 400, we would have to increase the budget to accommodate the additional.
Oh, it's not a question of that. Yeah, it will just automatically. I don't think we're locked into the spending pattern. The thing is that on the Trudy Blueberry side, it's almost run freelance from everything I could see, and for the accounting that was done on it in the past. And what you have to do there is, if the turnout doesn't turn good, you've got to start bringing down your expenses. And there's some variable expenses. You will see in the budget, there's unit costs on everything. And the ones that are really variable are the food, the insurance, and the t-shirts. The rest of them are reasonably fixed. You might have some possibility to cut back on the amount of porta potties or maybe on the tents, but you're not going to save a lot of money there. In any case, Kitty's point is a good one, and that's why I sent the thing out for some comment earlier. And I think the way to handle it is you track the reservation, the participation signups as you go forward. The one big question that's going to have to be answered in the next couple of weeks is what to charge. Let me get into that in just a minute, okay? But let's drop back to the normal and talk about the club cycling budget, and then we'll come back to the Tour de Blueberry. Okay, on the normal club membership budget, not proposed any change in the club membership fees. Okay, I think the purpose should be in the club to promote signups, promote memberships, and I'm not sure whether there's a price point that people would stop doing it. Couple items that are worth discussing. The insurance, which is going to have to be renewed here in the next week, has included last year the mountain bike rider, and I assume we'll keep that in there. Okay, we know what the insurance cost is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, the fall and spring meetings budgeted $3,000 coming out of the club and $1,000 coming out of the participants. So if we have 100 participants, you have $10 a piece. Now, if we have a great Tour de Blueberry and have a lot of cash on hand, well, we can just pay for it. That's what we did last year, and I think that's an ongoing discussion for future board meetings. We'll take that out next September.
So I think Tony, for Gloria's sake, can maybe explain that a little bit. We had a long discussion about these events, whether the club should pay for meals or not, and it's probably something we probably need to get some advice on as we approach some of these events, huh?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to discuss it now or just?
No, I just want to make sure Gloria kind of understood.
Yeah, last year we paid for it. In previous years, the participants have always paid at a small payment to put in. And this was, we spent an hour discussing it at a board meeting back in August or September.
Did it make a difference with attendance if people paid a small amount?
Probably not. I mean, we're not talking about a lot. I mean, we've had some pretty big events. I mean, one was out there at the over at the Battleship, and that had a big turnout.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think we've been getting the turnout for it the last couple of years, but it hasn't been so expensive to run it either. But we haven't, it has not been as formal. It's been.
And we had COVID too come and go in our
That's
lives.
right,
So
that's
that was,
true. Yeah,
yeah.
we did it with food trucks.
Hey, I have a suggestion, Gloria, if you could get with Linda and get a postmortem on the November dinner, like how many people attended and what the food truck costs were. The minutes of the September meeting have this hour-long discussion about whether we should charge for members and charge for guests. I'm not sure how all that fell out, but it would be good to try and avoid the big discussion this year and just have it more fact-based on what happened last year.
Okay, she and I did meet already, but yes, she's left the door open to contact her again.
Okay. Leaving the membership cycling portion of the budget, it is pretty routine that we will have a shortfall, and that shortfall is going to have to be made up from TDB profits. Otherwise, our cash on hand will go down. And I'm forecasting it to be sometime somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 short. The only way to eliminate that shortfall would be to cut the honorariums out, to cut back on the club participation to the social events, some of the other softer areas of the budget. But as I spoke earlier, the budget is intended to be a fairly generous budget. And it was kind of a viewpoint. We want to really grow and encourage the club as opposed to run that area too tight. So hopefully we have a very successful tour and we'll have cash, plenty of cash on hand to distribute.
Has there ever been any discussion about having two events like the Blueberry?
We do too. And honestly, getting leadership to run 2 events a year it was exhausting. We used to have the Hot 100 in August. People have asked for it to come back, but it was hotter than hell. It was 100 miles in August in Burgaw, and just like we had people falling out, honestly, and we couldn't get people to run them. You know, as Beth will tell you, and as those of us that have had to deal with Tour de Blueberry, 1 event a year is a lot of work. And then when you look at how much time you have to put into an event to make $6,000, it's a lot. So
Yeah.
I
was very at one time very interested in why we didn't run things like you know, they have several annual triathlons, and they have the big October race here, and they make a lot of money on those things. Why
they
the
have
club couldn't do
massive
that?
committees, the biggest committees you've ever seen in your lives that do nothing but it for months, right, Kitty?
Yeah, we're starting the planning
been on
for
them.
the Ironman in
The
October.
Ironman.
The first
Yeah.
email came out today.
But
So,
you have to get a professional organizer.
Mhm.
well, yeah, people
Yeah.
get paid. People get paid for doing that stuff. Just
Yeah.
say
Sure
it.
they do. And they make a lot of money, and we can't
No,
call
they
it.
don't. No, they don't make a lot of money, but they get paid.
Oh, I'm not
thought
saying
it was
the
not to make a lot of
organizers
money, but it was.
I'm saying that the Ironman people, Ironman Foundation makes a lot of money.
My thought for having more than one event was not to make more money, but to spread the risk. If there's no Tour de Blueberry, that's a big hit. So
The only thing that's going to cancel a Tour de Blueberry is a hurricane. You know, we've been doing this thing now since 2008, Al, and it has grown every single year. I see why Tony's doing the budget conservatively, Sandy, but honestly, like, and if there's a hurricane and we don't have it, we don't have all the expenses either. So you know, there's going to be more than 400 people. If anything, we're going to be at a point of having to cap attendance.
Mhm.
Yes, it was
I'm
capped
surprised-
this year at 600.
I
So
don't know.
we could
Yeah,
always cap it at 700.
or 650 or something, but you're getting to saturation point, and the way events are growing and the way bicycling is growing, I don't think that this is going to be a problem to have substantially more than 400 people. Honestly, Sandy, I'd be shocked.
all right.
Well, so I guess there's a couple things here. There's the portion of the budget that's related to operating Fear Cyclists, and I've looked at this pretty carefully, and I personally, I don't really have any, I mean, it's a budget, right? And it seems to me, it seems reasonable. Does anybody have any questions about the Fear Cyclist budget as Tony's proposed to us? Any recommendations or any adjustments?
I don't have a question, but instead of a second event, how about some sort of a different type of fundraiser of some sort? And I'm just throwing this out there. We raffled a bike for another event that I was doing. I'm talking about a high-end bike, you know, a $5,000 bike. And we ended up making $3,000 in fundraising, you know, on the bike. I'm not, you know, just maybe we have something else that makes up the $3,000 versus trying to, like you said, I've helped with a lot of events, and it is quite the undertaking to try to promote another event. But I don't know, maybe we brainstorm on something else that generates some fundraising revenue.
The point is that we do not really need to run another event if indeed the tour is successful. Okay, we make substantial money on that. 2021, we did not make much money. But that was right after the COVID when we ran that thing. That I think we only had about 350 people or something at it. But the 2019 we did. But in any case, if we have a good tour, we'll do fine. One thing we can do, and let's bring this up in a little bit, is we can approve the budget for the normal club and leave the tour thing open. Let me talk to the tour a little bit. Okay, we spoke about the fact that it's difficult to forecast the people. It's an interactive budget. It's in there $55 a person. There's a few items that I want to discuss. So the insurance for the non-members has now gone up to $12.69. And the normal club insurance is only $8. So $8 for 1 year and $12.69 for a single event. And the excuse that American Specialty Insurance has on that is that they've had some big claims in the special event area. And then secondly, what they're trying to do is keep the club costs down so that the club membership would not suffer as a result of the special events. And we can quote pass the costs through. So anyway, the insurance cost is up substantially. Beth is indicating that food is also expected to be even higher than what I have in there. I ran the variable costs on the members because we don't have to get insurance on them. We make that's about $36. We make $19 on them. However, the non-members, the cost is $49. Our margin is only $6 a person, and it can be eaten up pretty fast. So what is under review at this point, and I think Beth is planning to have a meeting on the next week or so, is the possibility of raising the fee up. And there are several different schemes that are under discussion. One is to just raise it up to $60 or $65 for everybody. And then the question is that price point going to push people away from the ride, or is it not? The other possibility would be to have a two-tiered pricing structure, one for club members and one for non-club members, and maybe to try to attract some people into the club. So the thing's not totally settled down on the Tour de Blueberry side, but we certainly have the tools to examine it, and we do have the ability to monitor the signups as they come on.
So, I think that was one of the questions that I had at this stage, Tony, is I felt like looking at the Fear Cyclists budget that you prepared, that I feel like this group could probably make a decision on that today, that whether we like it or not. And I'm curious if anybody has any more comments on that. I felt like the Tour de Blueberry one, we might need to go through Beth's discussion on this before we decide on that particular budget. Although the way you laid it out makes perfect sense to me, but I know that she's in her report, she proposed a number of thoughts on how to approach it. And I don't know if I got my head around all that stuff, but we might need to hear from her directly about what her thoughts are. And I think we just need to decide how we want to do it. And that,
I think it's too extensive a discussion to put on here.
Yeah.
It's taken offline.
So does the Tour de Blueberry budget, is that a board approval thing also? It requires board approval?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever been run with the board approval, to be truthful.
No, the board, no, I'm going to disagree. The board always has to approve budget,
Yeah,
always.
Yeah, so I know
I agree.
Yeah, so I noticed that, for the reasons we're not meeting next Monday. I can't be there next Monday. So I think my point is, when she has her session, we have to make sure that there's appropriate board representation there to give her the feedback or approval that we need. And she talked about a tour to Blueberry Committee. I don't know who that is, to be honest with you, but either that or she can have a discussion with her committee and come back to the board. I'm not sure, how we want to approach that.
Yeah, Mark, in the past, there has been a separate tour to Blueberry Committee. And that probably would be a very, very good thing to have, even as early as we're in the year as we are. And then have them come back. I mean, basically, I think Tony's done a great job of putting together a budget proposal. And the nice thing about budgets is that, they are a projection of where you think you're going. And as time goes on, you can, adjust those, I guess, visions of the future. I would say, we're at a point that you can approve the proposed budget and appoint a tour to Blueberry subcommittee and have them work out, the financial details there.
Okay.
Right. Well, that was my thought, and that's why I kept the thing pretty conservative. I don't see anybody's going to get upset if we are getting higher attendance. One point is that expenses need to be kept in line with the amount of registration. And I think from what I saw, I've watched the costs come in on these things for 2 years now, is that it might be beneficial if we had the resources to have somebody, working with Beth, trying to work on the costs. And I've tried to do that a little bit with some of the things like the tents and stuff like that, and pay as we go. But
Okay.
I'm more interested in a method here. I think it would be good to approve something, but I think it just need to be understood. The tour is still open. Last year we had a 400-person budget, and we increased the registration fee, and we didn't have any problem in filling the thing up. And maybe there is not a price point where this thing will start to lose participation. But it's got a lot of costs associated with it. And the fact of the matter is that with this insurance situation, you've got a pretty high or a very limited margin now going on with non-members.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understood what everybody just said. I think what I heard everybody say is that we would prefer to, if everybody's on board with the budget as Tony's presented, we'd like to put a motion out to approve the budget as is. And then, or if anybody has any changes, we can talk about that. But and that includes the tour to Blueberry, but we'll approve this, but we're asking Beth to have another session, which I think she's committed to doing on Monday, a week from today, to talk about rates, approach, and that she's proposed a couple of different interesting approaches in her notes. And I presume that we would ask her to come back and present these ideas to the board. Is that what we're thinking?
Right. And what we can do there then is the next board meeting, whatever's agreed to on the registration rate, and that I think is going to have to be approved pretty soon, because I believe that she plans to start registrations here in February. As before,
February 5th. She said February 5th she wants to start. So yeah.
So maybe we need to just have maybe if we get enough of the at least the officers with whatever other committee she's pulling together in that meeting, we can just, we can approve that point, and we can just keep, and then we just keep iterating the financial plan on that. And that's what I tried to point out. I think it's more of a moving plan. The old statement, plans are nothing, planning is everything.
All right.
That's where I see the tour.
Well,
I
does
make a
somebody
motion, we approve Tony's budget.
I second it.
I second that, yeah.
All right, great. And then, so again, I think the note I saw from Beth is she's trying to arrange a meeting on the 30th, a week from today. I can't be there, but I'll probably just drop her a quick note that says, hey, when you get this meeting, we need to make sure we have a good swath of our board members on to participate with the discussion over it. It looks like what we want to charge and the different ideas she has for that. Does that sound right?
If we
Yeah,
go
she's
to a
talking about
higher
raising it up a little
lower
bit.
Participation, if we have higher registration, we're gonna make more money, and then that's more money for retained earnings, more money for donations.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll drop her a note this evening or tomorrow morning, says we're all are interested, and we want to make sure we're participating with her to come up with a solution.
Mark, I'll plan on attending that meeting too. With
Perfect.
that.
I'll be there.
Okay, great. Okay, is there any more discussion? I know that there's Tony, I know you touched on it. This is probably not the right venue to talk about it, but I have heard too that there's an idea of contributing more monies out to donations and not having so much in the bank account. But I feel like everybody's kind of like that. We would have to change the bylaws to do that, huh?
You would have to change the bylaws, you might have to get a new secretary too, or treasurer.
No.
No, I mean, it's just, as I pointed out earlier, I feel very strongly about the well-being of the club and want to see the finances run the same way that I run my own, which is to keep a lot of reserves there and to spend the reserve. And if we want to spend the money on things that will grow the club, I think that's a good expenditure. And certainly go into the Tour de Blueberry or to the Terry Benji Foundation and their activities is a good expenditure. Some of these other donations, they could probably be cut if we had to. I mean, I know they're, if it's like have successful one, then we'll share.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Tony?
Great job, Tony.
Yeah. Just old business. I tossed, or excuse me, yeah, the old business. I threw this on here because last year there's a question about, do we have sufficient coverage for the board of directors? And I don't think we've really advanced it yet. The gentleman that was writing with us that as a retired lawyer is going to look into it. And I don't think he's been able to do that yet. So I just put it as a placeholder here. I think, Tony, you asked about that last year.
I asked about last year, because we now have officers and board meeting liability insurance on the in place. We do have $1 million liability policy within the club, but recognize that as a board member, and anybody that's been on board knows this, you have a personal liability, and you don't want to have an accident with some kids or something, and they claim you being planned a bad route or blah blah blah. Could be 1,000 things. Has to be no reason at all, and they come after the board.
Yeah,
and that's what I was wondering about, particularly in the area of education and training, where you're bringing a lot of children into the event. But it's a big task to undertake it.
yeah.
And
Okay.
I think we just have to be happy with where we are for now.
Okay. Well, I'll move on to the new business, and I think Mr. Phil, you're working on the ride leader jersey idea.
Yeah, we had a meeting, a committee meeting, and we discussed the ideas, and I gave them ideas on a design for the back of our jersey. We came up with the look of our standard jersey, adding Cape Fearless leader to it, to the front of it, and a pirate map on the back with outlining our rides in different areas and kind of an artistic thing. I didn't get back with my artist because I was giving her the deadline of next week's Monday. And when the meeting got moved up, I didn't get back with her. But yeah, we're ongoing with that. We're trying to look at getting 6 to 10 jerseys made and out to the ride leaders. So yeah, we're working on it.
Very cool. Any questions for Phil or any other new business before we move on to the committees? Okay, so I have Beth up there first. I know she couldn't be on there. We talked quite a bit about it. She did send me a quick note that said that she's planning on opening up Tour de Blueberry registration February 5th. She has sent out an invite for a Tour de Blueberry committee meeting, and it's for January 30th at 6:30. So I've already seen she's got a Zoom meeting out. I don't know who's on her committee. I'm clueless on that, so I'll try to find out. But I think her discussion is what she's got, what we're going to charge and how we're going to approach the Tour to Blueberry financial piece. And so with that, I'll just move on to Miss Eileen with Public Relations and Terry Benji Foundation.
Thanks, Mark. With publicity, we've got a lot of folks that actively follow our Facebook page. We're up to 1,591 followers. The posts that get the most engagement tend to be about trails, greenways, or, kind of new things that are happening. The rides every Thursday that I post get the kind of, routine looks. The one thing I wanted to ask the board to please consider, I know a lot of folks are like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere near Facebook, and that's fine. But if you do have a Facebook account, and if there is a Cape Fear Cyclist post, every time you all like it, the exponential growth of that post is beyond description. And I actually know it's not beyond description because I have numbers to describe it. So the other day I posted the Cape Fear, the Cycle North Carolina Mountains to the Sea ride, and it got 8 comments, 3 shares, and 27 likes. Because of that little bit of activity. And if you think about it, 8 comments is not, it's not a ton, it's 8. But because of that, that post reached 914 people. Conversely, I posted about the 5 potential new trails in our region. It was a really cool story out of the Star News that a few of you, 6 people liked. And because only 6 people liked it, nothing else, it reached 90 people. So that little bit of additional activity, 10 times the reach happens when just a few more people like a post. So if there is something out there that you think is important for the community at large, because again, if we've got 1,500 followers and a follower likes a post or comments on it, it goes to his or her personal Facebook page. So the growth is indeed exponential if you want the greater community to see what's happening in our bicycling community. So that's just an example. The other publicity piece, Al's going to chat a little bit about the upcoming anniversary for Adopt a Highway, and I'll be working with Al and NCDOT to make sure that we get really good media coverage of that event. I used to do media relations back in my days at the hospital, so not a problem. We should be able to get some good coverage for that. So those are some things upcoming. I have not started an Instagram account for the club just because I've got so much going on. Do you all want me to try? Do you care? Are we cool with just one Facebook? You want Instagram? We don't care?
Well, we go straight to Snapchat.
I'm not doing Snapchat. If you all want Snapchat, you knock yourself out. I just have limited capacity to do a lot more. So if you're fine with us just living on Facebook, which again, to be honest, the target audience age-wise of our membership, a lot of them are Facebook type people like me. So I think we're probably okay. But if anybody gets to the point where you want another social media outlet, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But I'm not I'm not a TikToker for sure.
Eileen, one thing on the Instagram is you can set it up so whatever you post on Facebook goes automatically to Instagram.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I was actually, because it used to be you had to go from Instagram to Facebook.
Yeah.
Now they're letting you go from Facebook to Instagram. So I may just go ahead and add the account and see what happens. Yeah, okay. The WMPO posts more on Instagram than they do on Facebook, and I try to share a lot of their posts. So so don't be surprised. And if I do that, I'll send you all the information so you can start to follow it. Because again, the more followers we have, the more it'll grow and the more the word will spread. Thanks for that feedback. The Terry Benji, switching gears, unless anybody has a public relations question. The Benji Foundation has been really busy in a great way. I live in Pender County, and I have been invited to serve on the Pender County Steering Committee for the WMPO's new bicycle and pedestrian plan. The committee is going to be meeting 3 or 4 times to provide guidance and insight toward the development of a countywide plan. There is a WMPO survey that, I'm going to be honest, is not easy to fill out. I think it's an NCDOT WMPO kind of complicated thing. However, you all ride in Pender County more than probably any other county. So even though you don't live here, your voices are really important. Phil, thank you for commenting on it on the Facebook page. That's another example where it's gotten very little traction because very few people have noticed it. Do you all want me to send you an email with a link to that survey instead of asking you go to Facebook and find it?
Yeah,
Okay.
all that stuff's super helpful for me. I
Okay.
do a great job at that. And
I'll send a link out. And again, it's not an easy survey to take. So I would say if you think you're going to do it, wait until you have, 15, 20 minutes. Doesn't take forever. Phil, did you find it a little bit cumbersome?
They wanted the map to do the mapping. I didn't really understand that part of it, where I ride, but I did fill it out. I need bike lanes. I really want bike lanes fixed.
Yeah. The one thing that they did that I think you're going to appreciate is they had pictures of if would you ride on this or that? And so it was like a shoulder, a separate bike lane, and those are the things that your votes really will matter on. So picture yourself going through Atkinson. How do you want to go through Atkinson? So I'll send that to the board for you all to take that survey because your feedback is going to be important.
I saw the survey. I did the survey. Somehow it came in on my email. I don't know.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anyway.
No, I have no way of knowing who took it. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
I just know that I put it out there, and if you haven't taken it, I'll send it again and you can disregard it or take it. The other committee that I was on with Al and others, the North Carolina 210 Steering Committee is working in conjunction with East Coast Greenway to come up with a new route from the north end of Topsail Island over the Surf City Bridge through Hampstead to Country Club and Highway 17. They had a public meeting on November 14th where they gathered public feedback on the best route. They're looking at some easements that Duke owns. They're looking at NCDOT. I'll be honest, if this thing happens in Hampstead, it's going to be a really big deal. Unfortunately, it dumps everybody out onto Highway 17 going right past my house, which is like a nightmare. But you build one thing and eventually you get the next and eventually you get the next. In case you had not heard, the changing gears, the New Hanover Community Endowment, which is the proceeds from the sale of New Hanover Regional Medical Center to Novant, did their first round of grants. A Bike for Every Child, who we have supported with Tour de Blueberry money. It used to be known as Switching Gears. Now it's a Bike for Every Child. And they work with volunteers in the community to provide free bicycles as transportation for people and children in need. They got a grant from the endowment. And also there was one to UNCW, the Department of Health and Applied Sciences, And the applicant on that was a guy named Steve Zinder, who was on the Benji Foundation board, and he's also on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And his application is really cool. It's a mobile bicycle provided health outreach to homeless and people who live nowhere near hospitals and doctors' offices. And so they've got a grant. So keep your eyes open for that. I think that's going to be really cool. And then my final piece, and I know Al's going to talk about this more in his advocacy report, but I just want to thank Phil and Kitty and anybody who showed up at Curie Beach the other day. Unfortunately, the one person who was whipping his neighbors into an absolute frenzy about this pedestrian path has really made it personal and has been, you know, literally verbally attacking a member of the Terry Benji board who's also on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And your presence mattered. Your presence is the reason we got unanimous resolution from the Town Council of Curie Beach. And so even if you didn't have a chance to speak, that Town Council saw that you were there. Again, I know Kitty and Phil were there. I don't know if anybody else went, but thank you. And I think that's a real example of, Mark, you were asking earlier about the Benji Foundation and Cape Fear Cyclists. And what I know is that when I have something like this going on and I can email both boards, we get somewhere. And it really matters. So I wanted to thank you. That was an awesome turn of events. It's not done because the very next day, that man offered to, said he's going to sue the town council, which I think is adorable, because I don't think you can sue the town council for voting for a resolution. We are literally applying for a grant, but he's pretty hot under the collar. So Mo, really appreciate you, everybody showing up. And that is what I have, Mark.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it. And I'll just give you a tidbit on something that frustrates the hell out of me is that you know, they're building the new Hampstead bypass, and you probably see it up right outside of Topsail High School. And when you're in your meetings, ask them why they're not putting a multi-use path along in that new construction, because I don't know if you may not realize this, but the Hampstead bypass comes all the way over and connects into the military cutoff extension. And there is a multi-use path that we built alongside part of the military cutoff bypass, but it doesn't go all the way out to 140. It comes from Market Street and goes through the Ogden Park, and then it as you're going north, it's all along the right-hand side of the road, and it stops before you get to that bypass. And it just drives me nuts. That would be such a beautiful, easy, simple, cheap thing to do, to just extend that thing all the way up past Topsail High School.
I was driving past it the other day and I saw a buffer on the side of the road that could so easily turn into a bike lane right into Topsail High School. And I actually thought, I'm probably going to have to email Chad Kimes. Because I
can't push Chad on.
I can.
Yeah.
He won't stop talking to me. But he also drives past it every day, so we'll have to see. But yeah, Highway 17 is in need of a bike lane, but that's a whole nother.
The Hampstead bypass will, you know, they're building a brand new thing. They could put an MUP right alongside that, connect everything up. So I've seen the plans and it doesn't show one, which is just shocking to me. But
I can ask. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Thank you, Eileen. I guess Mr. Al.
Oh, my turn.
Yes.
I'm. You know, I think we've already covered some of this. I sent my notes out to the board already. I hope you'll have a chance to read them. Please do. And so I'm just going to hit it very, very quickly. Eileen has already talked about the Curie Beach, multiple use path, going out for a not to build one, just going out to get grant money to do a study about where would be the best place to put it. And apparently some of the residents there, is not in my backyard. And it was just great that Phil and Kitty and others, showed up there, spoke, and the council unanimously voted to say, yes, we support the application for this grant. The Gordon Road project, again, this is another good example of where the club and the Benji Foundation have both, met with the NCDOT about the widening of Gordon Road. We were so happy to see that there was going to be a multiple use path on the north side. We talked to them about, hey, how about some sort of bike ped facilities on the south side of Gordon Road? Chad Kimes and his people said, yeah, let's see if we can't do that. Went to the county, got money for sidewalks on the south side, crosswalks and so on like that. Just another great example of how we've been so lucky to work with Chad Kimes and his people at NCDOT. That's moving forward. Debris on River Road was another one I sent out. There, one of the Cape Fear cyclists identified that was like a 4-inch tall pile of gravel all the way across the River Road bike lane. Called it to my attention. I contacted first of all DOT, and they said, hey, that's actually part of the cities. I started to contact the city, and then I said, well, wait a minute. Let me contact the River Road people, the River Lights people. And they reacted immediately and they got it cleaned up. So if ever you see any of you board members or anybody you ride with see some sort of a bike ped hazard, let Eileen or me know, because we deal with DOT, we deal with the city, and now we deal with River Lights and trying to get that sort of straightened out. And everybody has been really responsive. And then finally Adopt a Highway, and Mark's already mentioned this. I mean, it's so neat that the Cape Fear Cyclists has been the only organization within a 6-county catchment area of NCDOT Division 3 has been participating in that for 35 years, ever since the program started. Eileen already talked about it. We're going to try and get some great publicity on it. Like to have a huge show up, of all of the as many Cape Fear cyclists and Benji Foundation people as we can get, and bring attention to Cape Fear cyclists, the Benji Foundation, and to the Adopt a Highway program. That's all I have.
Great. Well, thank you. And I'll just point out that 35th anniversary Adopt a Highway ride is on the Cape Fear ride calendar now. I think, did we pick April, Al? I think
It's the first Saturday in April.
Yeah. So it'd be great if we could get everybody out there for that. Okay. Well, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Bill.
Yes, sir. So quickly, see if I can do this. Nope. Okay. So we had for the year 1,082 visits, and those were just login visits. Am I muted?
No,
Oh, you're good.
Okay. And wait a minute. For the month of January through, for the months of January through, oops, that's the wrong year. Where did it go? Oh, hold on. I'm trying to find the right. There it is. So for in January of 2022, we had 71 logged in visits. And in January of 2023, we had 85. And that's about how it runs. 71 in the middle of the summer, it picks up to the mid hundreds. Then it drops back off. And so I expect it will follow that same pattern. we have renewed our certificate until 2024 with Club Express. They did raise their price a tiny little bit, and they got bought out by another company. And I have seen no effect from that whatsoever. So I really don't have much else to say. Things are going along pretty smooth.
Yeah, I don't want to confess that probably 60 of those logins were from me trying to get the calendar updated.
There are a lot of other non-member logons that show up in the thousands, but what I told you about was just the login.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bill. Anybody have any questions for Bill? No. No, we'll move on to Sandy for membership, and it's nice to see you, Sandy. I kind of miss riding with you. I hope everything's good with you.
Well, it's a slow process, but thank you.
Mhm.
I can share this, I believe, just a moment.
One comment I'll make while Sandy's still looking. It's real obvious to me from our website visits that Slack has picked up a whole lot of our traffic. There's a lot of conversations and things going on Slack, and it to me, it's been a wonderful addition to allow us to communicate with our members directly. So I think it's been fabulous.
Agree. And when I bring this up eventually, where'd it go? There it is. If you look at just the yellow, can you see it first? Let me put it that way.
No,
Cannot see it.
nope.
Well, that's not right. Well, fortunately, the numbers are really easy. Members to Fear Cyclists last year ended up at 406. We are now down to 391. That's pretty much normal traffic. I think it has slid a little bit and then gained a little bit. So we are in a steady state stage right now, if you ask me, over the last 3 years, subtracting 2021 because it exploded when everybody wanted a bicycle so they didn't get COVID. But following up on Slack, we're up 78 members from last year. We're now at 298 users of Slack. And I agree that there's a lot of great traffic on Slack and people really like it. So I would expect that to continue to grow. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Any questions for Sandy? All right. Well, thank you, Sandy. Kitty.
Okay, I'll be brief. I am, I've gotten the information and am going to work to schedule a bicycle safety 101 class at the clubhouse at River Lights. I'm hoping for April. I don't have a date yet, but thanks to Sandy for providing information for me, to me on who to work with over there, because I think it would be ideal for what we want to do as far as classroom in the clubhouse and safe riding to set up the different obstacle course and then do a group ride basically through River Lights. So I got fingers crossed. I'm very hopeful about that. Tammy Brown and I will, I think we had to reschedule. She had something come up, but hopefully we'll be meeting on Friday. She's had from a couple other groups that she's in, bike walk, not bike walk, but Safe Kids NC. We're working with them because they're the ones that used to bring most of the requests for bike rodeos that didn't just come out of the blue. And they've had some change in their organization. Tammy is back meeting with them regularly. And I'm happy that she's doing that, because that's just one thing that I can't add to the schedule right now. But they're starting to talk about some requests, so we might have a couple of rodeos on the calendar. I'll find out on Friday. We're filling out the application for helmets for NCDOT to meet the deadline. So we've got a lot of those things going on. The bicycles that are not usable, that are in the trailer, which now is basically under the auspices of the Terry Benji Foundation. But because we're really doing it together, I wanted to bring to the board's attention that we're going to be giving a number of those bikes to Bill McDowell, and he's going to be using them with some young kids that are in his neighborhood that don't have bicycles. They need to be worked on. They're not good enough for us to use at a bike rodeo, and they're really they're not the right size. Two Wheeler Dealer is going to be donating some bikes that we're going to be able to use for bike rodeos, that are some different sizes. So that's all going very, very well. As Eileen and Al both mentioned, we had a good presence at the Cary Beach town hall meeting last week. Tammy Brown was there, and she also spoke. I read the letter that Eileen wrote up, and I got like 7/8 of the letter read before the 3 minutes was up. And I talked really, really fast, so let me tell you. But I got all the pertinent points in. And it was wonderful, because everybody that got up and spoke in terms of glowing terms of how much this would benefit the area, the community. And I don't think this falls under the guise of stalking, but one of the gentlemen that spoke really impressed me, and biker, and talked about, all this biking that he does. I'd never heard the guy's name before. So after the meeting, I ran up to him and introduced myself and got his business card. And I think he could be somebody to pull into the fold. And whether it's Cape Fear Cyclists, Terry Benji Foundation, had a brief conversation with him, and he wants to have a chat and talk. He doesn't know anything about the Benji Foundation, and he's never done anything with Cape Fear Cyclists. He's a retired Coast Guard Rear Admiral who does consulting, and he's an avid biker. So there you go. I went right after this guy out the door. We haven't had any requests come in yet, as I said, but people are starting to think about it. So that's where we're at right now. I have a feeling things are going to start heating up pretty quickly.
Great, Kitty. Just one quick question. A couple of years ago, Phil and I attended a class that you and Tammy put on for us, which we talked about, whether we should have our ride leaders attend that. Is that Bike Safety 101? I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, it was Bike Safety 101. We want to do a separate class for ride leaders. But, I think the board's going to have a discussion. Do we make that mandatory? I don't know what the interest level is. All I can say is the feedback hasn't been positive, like, yeah, I really want to do this. So that's probably a discussion for the board to have. I think it should be mandatory, frankly. That's my recommendation. And if we're able to secure spots, dates at River Lights Clubhouse, it'll make a really easy place to do it. It's just a question of getting it, or getting, most of the ride leaders into the 101 classes, but we don't want to let those classes get real big either.
What is the title of that?
We basically call it Bike Safety 101.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
it is.
suggest we have a class that's open. And after that, we make a decision on whether the class is mandatory. We've not had a class in the last 6 months, have we?
No, we have not.
Yeah, I'd like to attend one. And I'm a ride leader. I think there's a pretty good backlog of people. Can we open it to the whole membership?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We'll have a limit on the number of people that we can, accommodate. But if we open it up to the membership and strongly encourage ride leaders to attend, it might that might accomplish what we want to accomplish, which is to get the ride leaders there. Yeah, and as a ride leader, Wayne, you certainly, could encourage the others to attend. But no, that's a good idea.
I will.
Okay.
There were some elementary schools that were going to do some education, bicycle education through the phys ed teachers. Is that still possible?
Yeah, we're working on that. The teachers wanted to table that until after the first of the year, after the holidays. So Tammy and I are working on revisiting that, and there were 3 schools that were interested. Yes, one of them being Wrightsville Beach Elementary. So we're really hopeful that with the change that's coming with adding the bike lane and removing parking places out at Wrightsville Beach with resurfacing, that's something that we'll be able to make happen. So that's probably our number 1 priority.
Okay. I will just say that I went through the training with Tammy and Kitty, and I thought they did a great job. I mean, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I probably have forgotten too much and probably could be retrained, but I know that I use quite a bit of what they taught me. So I think, Wayne, just to make sure I understood, you would like us, I think if she has a class, we're going to have to support encouraging ride leaders to attend. So I think your ask is to get find out when Kitty could do it and where, and then we would like to not make it mandatory, but we would take it upon ourselves to encourage ride leaders to attend. I would probably attend again myself, but that's your ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. The ask is have a date for the class, make it available to ride leaders. And if we don't quickly fill up based on ride leaders, open it up to the membership.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bet there's a lot of novice bicyclists that would be interested in taking the class.
Good.
Okay, great. All right. Any questions for Kitty? All right. Well, thanks, Gloria. I don't know how in the world I skipped past you. I'm sorry. You're on the agenda next.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be brief. I know we're close to finishing time here. Just a couple of things. So I am investigating an alternative location for the spring meeting just to change things up a little bit, but I am cognizant that it needs to be someplace that could accommodate the members if it rained. I'm thinking too, just to do something different than a food truck, maybe a potluck. If people don't mind bringing something to pass around, and depending on budget, maybe I can have at least like brisket catered or chicken or something like that. So we have sort of a main course and people just bring things to accompany that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, besides different locations for the social, is the idea of having a tailgate after some of the rides, if the location kind of would accommodate that. And I just, the thought here is just to keep it very simple. Some people already do this, and just communicate on Slack that, hey, does anyone want to stay for a tailgate, like Waccamaw State Park or something like that. And then, coordinate it what they would bring for, food or beverages to share. So at the next meeting, I will come, just to summarize here, at the next meeting, I'll come up with a plan for our first social in May in terms of location and like what we'll do with food and everything. Linda and I did meet and talk about everything that's involved, so I'm on board with that.
Well, thank you for taking on this role on that for us, Gloria. And I think if you need any help or advice, I know Linda certainly would do that. And of course, all of us here too, I'm sure would be more than happy to help out. So feel free to bounce things off us. I like the tailgate thing. I've seen that starting to happen now quite often on the Saturday rides these days.
Yeah, it'd be nice. A good way to socialize, because sometimes maybe it's the fast riders can't talk a lot.
Yeah, maybe the club could offer snacks and drinks for a tailgate, something that could be brought every week or something that could be brought and set out. Would be an incentive to have people stop around for a tailgate.
It's an idea.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned to you, if we decide to do something like that, we'd want to probably market it, and we can tweak the description on the ride calendar. And I know Eileen's really good on the Saturday rides about posting, and we could probably put a message that you have a tailgate or something like that. So maybe we should pick one, and I can talk to you about a ride that you would prefer, that you think would be good, and we can pick one and do it, see what happens.
Yeah, it'd certainly be easy to pick up some snacks and beverages at Costco and get a good price for everything.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, Gloria, thank you. Let's see here. I think the road racing and time trial position is open, right? I think that the young lady that was with us before, she's not participating now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And so far, I've never road raced, and I don't plan to. So I'm not sure what the board would like to do with this, but it definitely is one of our one of the things that we said we'd promote, and it's a committee position.
It's not covered by our insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Better take a read. I
Yeah,
don't
there
think it-
are restrictions on what we
Time
can
trials
do.
are okay, but not road
Yeah.
racing, not racing, but time trials.
Right.
Yeah, Phil is exactly right. And you can have time trials as long as you don't charge for them. And, that would be something I think, the club might want to look into. We did them several years ago, and they were well supported. But unfortunately, it's like the same thing, that Eileen mentioned earlier. It's everybody wants to do it. Nobody wants to run it.
Yeah. Okay.
Got a quick question, Mark. Did anybody attend the insurance webinar?
I could not. I know
I'm just asking, Wayne, Phil.
No, I didn't this year. I did it the past
Okay,
2 years.
I know, and I didn't have, I was tied up too. I just have not seen anything in from the insurance company in terms of the payment, the bid for next year. And it's due out within the week, so I'll make a call to them, see why they haven't sent it out.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I guess the point of this is that we don't really have a spot or that committee position filled, and I don't know if there's an urgency to do it. So we can debate it and talk about it. Somebody is excited about it and wants to take it on, then great. I'm clueless on it. I mean, again, I'm probably not going to do road racing or time trials. It's just enough to make it around the courses I ride on now. So unless I'm next to Tyler, he's teaching me about road racing. So in his past. So. And then Charlie, off-road racing. Thanks for getting on.
Hey, yeah. Hey, first I'd like to tell Gloria I love the idea of the tailgating. That was actually my major at East Carolina. Or at least that's what I got honors in. So I'm really excited about that possible idea. Yeah, so not much to report from the last couple months. For simplicity and time, let me just say, I'll just say my bike was stuck in the mud. But moving forward, 2023. So I just kind of decided to, for goals for the off-road riding for this up and coming year. So my goals for this year, one gravel ride or one off-road ride per month. I know that doesn't seem like much, but compared to kind of where we've been and where I've been and where we're at, my goal is one a month. And that's what we're going to start with. So one a month. And whether it's probably going to lean more toward gravel with, some mountain bike sprinkled in there, just because it just seems like we have a little more folks that are interested in the gravel versus the mountain bike. The other goal, so I've got three. So the second one is twice a year, kind of inspiration from Al and what he's done with the Adopt a Highway. Twice a year, I want to kind of have the similar thing with either working with Sorba or the Coastal Land Trust. They have some work days out at the trails. If you've walked or biked Blue Clay or Brunswick Nature Park, Browns Creek over in Elizabethtown, there's a great chance that Sorba or the Coastal Land Trust cleaned up those trails. When logs fall, debris gets on the trails and everything like that. And so kind of like Al has done with the Adopt a Highway, I want similar, and don't know that we want to do it ourselves per se to have a work day, with a ride, but I'd love for Cape Fear Cyclists to maybe piggyback when Sorba's having some work days, or when the Coastal Land Trust is having some work days, and they usually, hey, how'd you hear about us? Who you're out there? And I think it'd just be great, like we're talking about, working with other groups and them, us learning about them and them learning about us. And then third and last is just getting some more promotion out there, getting some more people interested in gravel riding, and promoting ourselves and promoting a little bit of the off-road availability, and then also promoting some things that Sorba is doing, because they're having rides and fundraisers and different things of that nature. And I just think that kind of as being a liaison between off-road and mountain biking and the road club, would love, for us to either, if people want to go and take part in some of these events, absolutely would love to see that as well. But even if not, maybe we go and support it and volunteer or help out at it, or they've got a and Mark, I'm gonna be sending you a bunch of dates coming up, because I just got some stuff from Greg this afternoon, but they've got a mountain bike race that's going to be held over at Browns Creek in Elizabethtown. So, just some different opportunities to do those things with some, Sorba and some of the other groups. Yes, ma'am.
If they would send me stuff, I never hear from them.
It's a tough.
Love to post their stuff because they're great.
It's a tough group, and to get and I'm fortunate. Greg Brinson has stepped back on,
Okay.
As a co-president, and Greg and I, go way, friends since kids. So that's how I'm able to finally keep kind of pushing him a little bit to get the information, but they don't necessarily. I'm not sure how they're getting the information out themselves.
Yeah, I never see their stuff. If anybody, I get a lot of stuff via Facebook Messenger to the Cape Fear Cyclist page. So if somebody just even sends me a link to an event, if it's an event that we would sanction, I can just take that link and put it on our page. It's so easy. So feel free to use Facebook Messenger under Cape Fear Cyclists, and I'll get it.
Okay. But that's because they've got one big fundraiser coming up. I think it's in February. But one of their longtime mountain bikers passed away over about a year and a half ago, and so this is an event kind of in his honor. And so, yeah, but so those are the off-road things. 3 main goals for 2023 so far right now. And to get the
Awesome.
bike unstuck out of the mud.
Awesome. Any questions for Charlie? Thank you. As far as the ride coordinator goes, I don't really have a lot to say. I've been trying to spruce up some of the invites by adding pictures of the crew on a bike ride to the invite, stuff like that. And I feel like the ride with GPS thing, I think that's gone over swimmingly well. So Phil and company are slowly moving our old maps over to ride with GPS. Pretty big task to do it, but it's kind of do it as they come along. So I feel like that's been a huge positive, and I feel like I've now seen regularly people are reaching out and wanting to sign up for our ride with GPS. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know how we market that to get more members, but hopefully as the word gets out and people realize that we have it and have access to it as a member, maybe we'll get some more riders. Any questions that I can answer on the ride coordinator? Yes, sir.
Well, maybe Slack is a place when a ride's coming up on Slack. Since especially the Tuesday and Thursday ride, they have pretty much set routes. We could advertise the ride with GPS. If you want to ride this, if you want to go on this ride, you want to see where it goes, here's a link.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I'm not even sure I know how to do that, but that makes sense.
Oh, it's easy. Just go to the ride and copy what's in your browser and paste it. Have the ride leader do it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I know I had some fits and starts with how to post stuff in our descriptions, but I don't know, I think it's working now. Okay, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah. I've had a couple people tell me about missed turns, and I've been able to go right in and fix them pretty easy. So it's worked out well.
Okay. All right. So on one of the rides, the topic of the historian came up, and I put this on the calendar just to say, do we have a historian? And somebody's already volunteered, which I want to throw his name out, but he's must have had to run to the gentleman's room because I see his seat is empty. But I got a lot of feedback from Al on the club historian, and he gave me some history on who used to do it, and there's boxes of information, and he actually threw his name in the hat to volunteer to fill that position. And I don't know if that takes a board vote or not, or if anybody has any other thoughts, but so we better vote real quick before he gets back. So, okay, I know he volunteered, so I think he would be a great choice. And these last two I just threw on here. Oh, here he comes. Shh, don't say anything. Shh. Oh, you missed that vote, Al.
Congratulations, Al.
Yay.
Great. Hey, no, I think I am well qualified for the job because I know where all the bodies are buried.
Good requirement.
Yeah. These last two I just threw on there because I mentioned that there's in the club objectives, it talks about touring. I'm not looking to get a volunteer, but I thought I'd throw it out there for us to think about. And then the other piece that he gets volunteered for and does a good job is Bill Wagoner. He's been leading up getting jerseys for us. So I'm not sure if how permanent that is, whether he wants to continue to volunteer to do it, but I'm assuming at some point, probably at the next, I don't know, mid-year or something, he'll probably be wanting to know if we want more jerseys, that sort of thing. So with that, I don't really have any other committee business. Does anybody have anything else? I think we can wrap up. And I think one of the big questions now is, Tyler, have you been convinced?
No pressure.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm happy to help and be engaged, involved.
Great.
Okay. Well, great. So I think as a board, do we need to vote to add Tyler as our vice president?
I
Is that-
nominate Tyler for vice president.
I second.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, Tyler, I know I'm excited. I think with your background in cycling, and I know you do lead rides and you help out everywhere. I just think it's fantastic that
Mm.
you've done this. So it's really good stuff. So, all right, anybody have anything else business-wise they'd like to take care of today? Grace? All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time. I know it ran a little long, but I think that getting through that budget was kind of a big deal today. And appreciate all of Tony's hard work and all the feedback on that. I'll reach out to Beth, make sure I know that there's enough of us attending that we can give her good feedback and get the tour to Blueberry thing sorted. But anyway, thank you, everybody. And I just really appreciate it. You didn't beat me up too bad on my first rodeo. So
You did fine.
Thank you, Mark.
Well,
Thank you.
Great
all
meeting.
right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
everybody.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
okay. Bye.
Bye now.